Elizabeth Warren would not be the only person of color on the 4th Democratic debate stage. Tulsi Gabbard will be there right alongside her. I look forward to this particular debate. Now, the question becomes how they break this up, because apparently there may be 12 people on the stage, meaning you might get 6 and 6. Let's just hope her and Warren are on the same debate stage. There are plenty of issues to talk about, everything from Iran and other fires across the world. Unfortunately, the distinctions to which both of these are together on don't just end here. The only candidate that's pushing for Medicare for all in the election at this point right now is Bernie Sanders. Both Warren and Tulsi has ditched Medicare for all. It's not that I like doing this video, but reality is reality. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, you find yourself coming back here often, please like, share, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through PayPal or Patreon. So, take a look at this. And just so we're clear, and to be entirely fair, this is not a dodge. Someone tried to call this a dodge. This is not a dodge.
One of the things that a few of your opponents were talking about late last week, really, was this idea of middle-class taxes and healthcare. So, yes or no, should middle-class Americans expect their taxes to go up under a Medicare for all system?
You know, you may remember that I've spent a big chunk of my life studying why middle-class families go broke. And one of the number one reasons is healthcare. And back when I was studying it, about 2 out of 3 families that filed for bankruptcy in the aftermath of a serious medical problem had health insurance. But the problem is it's total cost for these families. So it's what you pay in premiums. It's also what you pay in co-pays to see a doctor. Or, sorry, that doctor is out of network, so you've got to pay for the whole thing. Or, wait, the insurance company says no on that specialist. Or the insurance company says high co-pay on this drug, or that drug is not even covered at all. People keep reaching into their pockets and reaching into their pockets even when they have health insurance. So how we have to think about this system is, yes, we should expect that for giant corporations and very wealthy individuals, costs will go up. But for middle-class families, for hardworking people, costs are going to go down.
But that's not the same.
So, personally, I like this answer. Now, you can argue and you can say, well, look, the answer to that question is yes, of course. Taxes will go up, but for the most part, your expenses will go down. You could get her to say that, but ultimately Elizabeth Warren is making a really good point here that I think people are getting fixated on how much taxes will go upside as opposed to your other medical expenses go away. Like, her argument is the issue is total cost. Essentially, how much will it cost? How much will my taxes go up as opposed to how much my medical bills will go down? And if the answer is your medical bills will go down more than your taxes will go up, then that means that you are literally paying less over the course of a particular year, while people at the high end of the income scale, the top 1%, in fact, the uber top 1%, will pay more. You're getting a top 1% subsidizing, essentially, the bottom class. I like the way she explains it, personally. I like this notion of saying, stop fixating on taxes and start fixating on the amount of expenses in terms of how much they will go down. Because that's right. Ultimately, how much I pay, meaning I pay $250 a month. My wife pays about the same. And this doesn't include when I go in and I do, let's say, like clinic visits or doctor visits. This doesn't include if my wife needs to get a procedure or if she has to get a doctor visit. Like, you're talking about all of those expenses literally going away. And that's with health insurance. That's with health insurance. That's not a dodge. She could make the argument, and she could be a little bit more aggressive, saying, look, stop fixating on taxes. Will middle-class families' taxes go up? Maybe. But for the most part, their expenses will undoubtedly go down. Like, you can talk about it in a particular way. They think she's being somewhat deceptive because she's not answering the question in a way that they know the answer to the question is. Yes. That said, even though I like that particular answer, I don't like this one. I don't like this one bit.
Right now, what we've got in Medicare for All is a framework, and it doesn't have the details, and you're right to be asking. But the most important part of your asking is to raise awareness so we get this right as we go through it. Can we just stop for a minute, though, and say, right now...
That answer is problematic. That answer is extremely problematic. Medicare for All is not a framework. It's a bill. Bernie Sanders wrote the quote-unquote damn bill, and there have been plenty of co-signers to that bill. Kamala Harris, if I'm not mistaken, being one of them, and if I'm not mistaken, Warren herself. Just so we're clear, it is not a framework. It is a bill. It is something that you either back or something that you don't. And if you don't, you should give your own example of what you actually do back. And I make the point that I did a video when Warren put her healthcare bill out, because I made the point that Medicare for All is nowhere listed in her healthcare bill or healthcare policy that she put out. I've argued in the past that Warren agrees with Medicare for All in theory, but not in practice. And because she agrees with it in theory, it allows her to be on a debate stage and argue for it as if her and Sanders are one-to-one on this particular issue. I gotta be honest, this answer is extremely problematic, even from the standpoint of Sanders. If they are on a debate stage and people are believing that they are a one-to-one, and when she's on the campaign trail, she's talking about Medicare for All like this, as if it's a framework, and that you're right to keep asking because the policy hasn't necessarily been fleshed out. When Sanders is talking about something very specific, meaning his bill that is a legal document that plenty of other senators have signed on to. There's a difference in those things. Medicare for All is not a framework.
What we've got in Medicare for All is a framework, and it doesn't have the details, and you're right to be asking. But the most important part of your asking is to raise awareness so we get this right as we go through.
Medicare for All is not a framework. It's a bill. And the fact that Elizabeth Warren didn't have it in her policy gets across that much more that she's not for it. I've said on more than one occasion, it's amazing how people evolve when it's election season and they're running for office. And I strongly suggest to you that what is going to take place is Elizabeth Warren is going to tack to the right and leaving herself to be able to say, look, I didn't say that I was specifically for Medicare for All. In my stump speeches, I continuously said that it's a framework and that it's not fleshed out and that there may be other policies or other plans that I'd be willing to accept. When she gets on a debate stage, she says one thing. When she gets on her stump speech, she says something else. This is Joe Rospas. He is Elizabeth Warren's top strategist. He was on David Plouffe's show today, and listen to what he says, because he says something very interesting also.
So you mentioned all the questions, both at the town halls and on the selfie lines. I don't know how many questions he's getting along these lines at those events, but certainly amongst political reporters, there's a sense that, the debates have been pretty strong for Warren, but questions about how transparent she's being. And, she has a reputation as a straight shooter around how she paid for health care plans. So I understand she wants to take that question to, listen, the benefits for working people.
So this is kind of my point where I say they keep asking her this question. And Warren's point is, look, don't focus on taxes, focus on cost. If your costs will go down at the end of the year, what do you care? Your medical expenses, for the most part, vanish. They go away. Meaning anything that you had to pay out of pocket, including those expenses each month that you had to pay for healthcare, go away. What do you care if your expenses go down? This question hounds her because they try to get a very specific answer that your taxes will go up. And that's the answer Warren doesn't want to give. But let's listen to what this gentleman says.
People middle class, the net benefit's going to be positive. You're going to ultimately pay less for healthcare. Do you think you guys are going to have to be a little bit more specific, though, about how you pay for it, no matter what the net benefit is on the other side?
So I think her answers on this, are around the overall cost for middle class families and what it's going to be. I think that the question of the pay for is there's a lot of detail still to be filled in terms of both Bernie's bill that's out there, but also the other versions of it. Other candidates have their specific plans. So I think there'll be more for that. But I think it's important to note that the overall cost question is not just where she wants to be placing emphasis, but it's also where voters understand the fault line to be. So I think there's a kind of disingenuousness to the, well, let's talk about taxes part of it. But
All right, let's listen to it one more time. There's something, just trying to make a point. One more time.
Reporters, there's a sense that, the debates have been pretty strong for Warren, but questions about how transparent she's being. And, she has a reputation as a straight shooter around how she paid for healthcare plans. So I understand she wants to take that question to, listen, the benefits for working people, middle class, the net benefit's going to be positive. You're going to ultimately pay less for healthcare. Do you think you guys are going to have to be a little bit more specific, though, about how you pay for it, no matter what the net benefit is on the other side?
So I think her answers on this, are around the overall cost for middle class families and what it's going to be. I think that the question of the pay for is there's a lot of detail still to be filled in terms of both Bernie's bill that's out there, but also the other versions of it. Other candidates have their specific plans. So I think there'll be more for that. But I think it's important to note that the overall cost question is not just.
Bernie's bill is the only Medicare for all bill. There may be people with Medicare for people with bad legs, Medicare for people who want it, all these other different, things that they're trying to slip under some idea of Medicare for something. But Bernie Sanders wrote, quote unquote, the damn bill. It's only one Medicare for all bill. If Elizabeth Warren was for Medicare for all, it looks like her people and her would be arguing for Medicare for all. That doesn't seem to be what they're doing. Listen to Elizabeth Warren. This was back in 2012. Because I would argue that, again, people evolve during the presidency. Well, looks like she evolved during the presidency.
If you were the czarina, something like single-payer healthcare, government-run pay, far lower administrative costs, that sort of thing, would be the Senator Warren prescription, would it not?
And I think right now what we have to do, I'm serious about this, I think you've got to stay with what's possible. And I think what we're doing, and look at the dust up around this, we really need to consolidate our gains around what we've got on this.
But you do support single-payer, do you not?
No, what I've got right now.
That you have you not?
Oh, no, I don't. In fact, she even goes further when he says, did you support her in the past? Let's hear her push back.
Oh, I think you need to go back and take a look at
I have a paragraph. It's the most obvious.
She said, I think you need to go back and take a look at my record, buddy. I used to be a Republican. I guess my thing is, she didn't support it before. Most likely, she doesn't support it now. And she is going with this notion that, yeah, I support it in theory, but the issue is, what do you support in practice? And you need to put that up for people to scrutinize, not try to slip under Sanders' wing during the most eyes, and then when you get on a campaign stump, say something else. I don't trust her, and neither should you. Unfortunately, Elizabeth Warren is not the only one to ditch Medicare for all. I went to Tulsi Gabbard's website, and this is her website. You can take a look at it for yourself. And I went through it, and I didn't find Medicare for all listed at all. Now, in not finding Medicare for all listed, I did click on the video that she had, and she did make an argument for Medicare for all in the video when she was talking to this particular woman who asked her the question on it. The problem that I have is when Tulsi Gabbard is on an interview for NPR. This took place on September 25th, 2019. Listen to the question about Medicare for all. And tell me. You can hear it for yourself. Is this Medicare for all? And here's the thing. This interview was one of the worst interviews that I think I've ever heard. Not because of Tulsi, by the way. I don't necessarily like that answer on the Medicare for all answer, but I'm talking about the interviewer herself. Some of this stuff was somewhat bigoted. That she threw pretty much every smear that has ever been thrown at Tulsi Gabbard. It was a disgusting interview. But I'm going to do a video on that after this one. But I want to, at the very least, stick with the point. Tell me if this is Medicare for all.
Like healthcare, education, infrastructure, protecting our environment.
When you say healthcare, are you for Medicare for all? If you can just tick through the list more specifically.
Yes, I prefer to call it Medicare choice, where we are ensuring quality health care for all people, regardless of how little they may have in their pocket or their bank account, while maintaining their freedom of choice. If they've got an employer-sponsored plan or a union-sponsored plan that they're happy with, they should have the opportunity to do so. But the bottom line being that in the wealthiest nation in the world, there is no excuse that we still have far too many Americans who are underinsured or uninsured.
Medicare for all is a very specific plan, right? And Medicare for all doesn't necessarily include employer-run healthcare plans. I don't know what she's talking about. And she doesn't even call it Medicare for all. She calls it Medicare choice. That's not Medicare for all. I'm sorry. That's something different. I understand there may be some people who are like, no, man, she's really for Medicare for all. No, man, she's really for Medicare for all. Look, I heard her literally not even call it Medicare for all and call it Medicare choice. Medicare choice. Sounds like Julian Castro's plan. Yeah. Not satisfied with these answers at all. Not satisfied with these answers at all. This does not make me happy in the least. Amir Farrier. Tulsi's Medicare for All plan is a private option similar to Jay Paul and Bernie Sanders. Some union members and veterans have better coverage than Medicare. I hear you, but if that's the case, you would think she would call it Medicare for all. I mean, if you're right, if ultimately Jay Paul's plan and Bernie Sanders' plan, which again is a very specific plan, it's a legal document, if indeed what she's saying is essentially similar to that, then why would you need to have this? I hope you get my point. If what she is talking about is indeed Medicare for all, and if what she is indeed talking about is for union plans and these other plans, just like in Bernie Sanders' plan, then you would think that she could just use Bernie Sanders' plan. Why is she coming up with a plan and then calling it Medicare choice? This answer is unsatisfying. I'm sorry, this answer is unsatisfying. I mean, again, Medicare for all is very specific. Medicare for all is very specific. Edward Klein. Tulsi exposed herself, Jamal. Diego Fernandez. Tulsi ain't an enemy, just there. I'm not saying she's an enemy. I didn't say that at all. I didn't say Warren was an enemy. I didn't say anybody was an enemy. My only point is, what Warren is talking about is not Medicare for all. And unfortunately, what Tulsi Gabbard said here did not sound like Medicare for all to me. I could be wrong. And maybe they will come out and explain, yes, it's Medicare for all with some kind of other option or something. I don't know. But what she said were employer plans. And this did not come across as Medicare for all. Let's see. Bernie Sanders' plan doesn't allow, to provides. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Bernie Sanders' plan, for the most part, for all intents and purposes, eliminates private insurance. If I'm not mistaken, there may be ancillary items. And I've heard Tulsi Gabbard talk about healthcare or Medicare for all before, and this was not her stance. I'm sorry. She wasn't talking about Medicare for choice before. She was talking Medicare for all. And she was even being somewhat sly about it, saying, look, I'm not saying we're going to get rid of private insurance. However, Medicare for all is going to cover everything. So, I mean, what's the point of private insurance if Medicare for all, for the most part, covers everything? That's her point. Now she's with this. My point is, beforehand, she was talking about Medicare for all. I've heard her argue it. Now she's talking about something else. That's my only point. I'll leave it here. Like, share. I mean, look, the video's at the bottom. You can listen to it for yourself. Like I said, I'm going to go over this interview again because it was a horrid interview. The interviewer was, I can't believe NPR has gotten that way. NPR sucks. Honestly, that woman came across like a neocon in that interview, and for the most part, attacked and smeared Tulsi the entire interview. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was even difficult to listen to at a certain point. And Tulsi was like, look, I'm done, and gets up and leaves. I mean, it got that bad and that contentious. So I do want to talk about that again. Is this a semantic game? Victor Surge. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because the Medicare choice thing seems, I mean, it comes across as if she's allowing some people to choose between private insurance versus Medicare for all. That's what it comes across as, which means that's something else. Now, if it's a semantics thing, why on earth would you change Medicare for all to Medicare choice when nobody knows what the hell that is? If it's just semantics, meaning if you're just playing with words, even though you're talking about the same thing, there is no advantage in calling it Medicare choice. At least I don't think there is. I mean, I suppose some people may make the argument, I want to keep my employer-based health care, even if I have to pay for it $200 or $300 a month. That's something I prefer, fuck Medicare. Some people may do that. But I don't want those people to do that. Meaning, I don't want private insurance lingering around because some people have this kind of weird ideological bent against not using the better product. In 10 years, they wouldn't care. In the moment, I don't want to leave that vestige hanging about. If it's a word game, I have no idea why that would be advantageous in the primaries. I just don't know why she would do that. Tulsi attacked Warren on the... Yeah. I did that video. I did that video earlier today. All right. Like, share, subscribe if you... Look, I know this video is going to get a bunch of downvotes. But I got to be honest. I don't understand the downvote. In the sense, I don't think I'm being unfair to her. In fact, I don't think I've ever been unfair to her. And I am literally going by what she said. Medicare for all is a very specific bill. I'm just saying. The same thing is true for Warren. Medicare for all is a specific bill. Are you for it or not? That's all. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to ascertain. And if you are not for it and you're for Medicare choice, fair enough. I appreciate you even telling me what you're for, meaning the Medicare choice stuff. Because Warren is being dodgy about it. And a lot of these guys are doing this thing where they're saying, yeah, we're for Medicare for all, but we're for Medicare for all in our own image. Meaning, not really for Sanders' bill, even though we're going to call it Medicare for all, but we're going to dress Medicare for all around something else that we come up with. No, I am asking something very specific. I don't want the dodginess. Are you for Medicare for all or not? And look, you might say, no, I'm not. I'm for Medicare choice. And you can even make the argument to me, and I might think, okay, fair enough. Medicare for choice is better, or just as good. So it's not me dinging her on it. I'm just making the point that in that video, she said, I'm for Medicare for choice. That's not Medicare for all. And the same thing with Warren. Warren, in this other video, talking about a framework, that's not Medicare for all. That's something different. That's all. That's all. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all. See you in a few.